Here's a look at your market recap on this Monday, the 15th day of September. Take a look at the Missouri Crop Progress Report before we get into the markets. For the week ending September the 14th, 6.8 days suitable for field work. Topsoil moisture continues to decline, now at 27% very short, 45% short, 28% adequate, and 0% surplus. Subsoil moistures, same story there, currently 19% very short, 41% short, 4% adequate, and 0% surplus. Corn dented is now at 94%. That compares to the 5-year average of 95%. Corn mature, slightly ahead of the 5-year average at 66% compared to the 5-year average of 58%. Corn harvest moved up to 17% complete. That's slightly ahead of the 5-year average of 12%. Corn condition rated at 1% very poor, 4% poor, 19% fair, 6% good, and 16% excellent. Looking at the soybeans, those dropping leaves now at 33%. That's ahead of the 5-year average, which is 21%. Soybean harvest is at 4% complete now. That compares to the 5-year average of 1%. Soybean condition rate at 1% very poor, 9% poor, 30% fair, 54% good, and 6% excellent. As expected, pasture conditions declined this week, 7% very poor, 23% poor, 34% fair, 35% good, and 1% excellent. Taking a look at the auction barns around the state today, Joplin Regional Stockyards are already done for the day. They got started early today, about 4:30, trying to get ahead of the heat. Despite the fact that futures markets were sharply higher today, you have to remember that the Monday sales last week were mostly higher markets, as those markets took place before last week's massive sell-off. So the barns this week have a little bit of balancing out to do between the early and the late week auctions. There at Joplin today, they didn't quite get what they expected, a little bit shy, 7,339 head. The steers under 750 pounds, 2 to 10 lower. Heavier weights were mixed from 3 lower to 8 higher. The heifers sold $2 to $15 lower, with most of the loss noticed on the lighter weight heifers under 700 pounds. It was noted that the day's offering did have many more plainer typed cattle in the offering. The steers, medium and large ones, 4 to 5 weights at 430 to 480, 5 to 6 weights at 400 to 450, a package of thin flesh steers at 480, some 6 to 7 weights at 365 to 435, 7 to 8 weights at 353 to 392.50, 8 to 9 weight steers in Joplin, 347 to 368, some 9 to 950 pound steers at 326.5 to 346. Feeder heifers, 3 to 400 pounds at 440 to 480, 4 to 5 weights at 385 to 445, 5 to 6 weight heifers at 365 to 390, 6 to 7 weights at 340 to 395, 7 to 8 weights at 330 to 354, some 8 to 9 weights at 320 to 330. Box beef cutout values, choice down $1.51 today, falling underneath the $400 mark now, $398.53. Select was up 36 cents at $378.80. That makes the choice select spread $19.73. Volume today, 101 loads of cuts, trimmings, and grinds. Negotiated feedlot trade basically untested today, just a handful of scattered sales around. Last week we ended up with 61,263 head. The weighted average price on the live sales, $239.50. That was down $3.12 from the previous week. Dress sales at $376.33. That was down $6.89 compared to the previous week. Taking a look at our two cattle trackers, the Missouri Stocker formula. Today's volume, 5,950 head, with a weighted average weight of 549.06 pounds. The price value, $427.25. That's 71 cents lower than Friday and down $9.58 compared to a previous week. The CME Cash Feeder Cattle Index currently setting at 362.15. That's based roughly on an 800-pound steer up through the 12-state feeding region. Taking a look at the livestock closes today on the Mercantile Exchange. A lot of green noted today on everything, both cattle and hogs. Live cattle for October up 462 at 234.60. October 236.27 up 430. February 237.80 up 475. Feeder cattle for September $8.40 higher, 358.80. October up 8.70 at 354.50, and November 350.25 up $7 even. Lean hogs October 40 cents higher, 97.52. December at 88.85 up 22, and February at 90.45 up 7. Turning our attention to the grain markets, the cash bids paid to producers around the state today. Soybeans were 3 to 5 cents lower, wheat was mixed 3 lower to 11 higher, and corn 5 to 6 lower. At the elevators in St. Louis, corn 422 to 423. Kansas City at $4 even. Soybean bids in the St. Louis region $10.13 to $10.15. Kansas City at $9.57, and wheat in St. Louis $4.58 to $4.75. On the board of trade, corn for December $4.23 1/4, down 6 3/4. March at $4.41, down 6 1/4. May at $4.51 1/4, down 5 3/4. November new crop beans 3 1/2 lower, closing the day at $10.42 3/4. January down 3 1/2 at $10.61 3/4. March at $10.76 1/2, down 3 3/4. Wheat for December up 1.5 pennies at $5.25. March up 1 3/4, $5.42 3/4. May up 1 3/4 at $5.54. Soybean meal for October down $2.40 a ton at $2.85.20. Soybean oil for October up 9 cents a hundredweight at $51.76. With the Missouri Department of Agriculture, that's a recap of your markets for Monday. This is Tony Hancock.